On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Why are people hating on Oklahoma so much? We talk about it. We also talk about Cody Jackson jumping in the portal and OU's possibility of getting a portal QB. Then Dane Brugler joins us to talk some NFL draft, including the OU guys. And we finish up giving you our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man, Michael Hosty, will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, April 27th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and your health and safety are Riverwind's #1 priorities. There are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And Riverwind will be featuring live music and local food trucks every month starting in May for the Beats and Bites Festival. Performers include the Randy Rogers Band and Scotty McCreery. If you need help finding your way, just visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Now we're recording this Wednesday morning. Please leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment while you're at it. Ted, I feel like how the morning has started for you. There's a bit of frustration going on. Are we all right, man?
I'm good. Tried to change things up, and of course, technology not having it today. And it's a woo-saw moment, just trying to breathe in before I really start to do some damage to my equipment. It's close. I'm teetering on the edge. For some reason, and I can't figure this out, which this is maybe the least of the problems, but my internet hates my email hates our rundown for some reason. It will not allow it to come through. It's the weirdest thing ever.
It has happened so many times where I send you the rundown. You're like, hey, man, can you resend it? And I'm like, I've sent it like 3 times, and it just never appears in your email for whatever reason.
Nope. But we got it. We're good to go. I'm good. Good okay. Mood, ready to hit this thing.
If you lose it, people tend to like when you lose it on here, so it may be good. Maybe good for the podcast. Now, we wanted to get this out early because we've got Dane Brugler. He covers the NFL draft. He's the #1 draft analyst for The Athletic, puts together the Beast, which is by far the most comprehensive NFL draft guide you're going to find. And with the first round starting tomorrow night, Thursday night, we wanted to get this out a little earlier maybe than we usually do. So that's why we're recording in the morning. And sometimes we just like to get it out of the way, you know?
It's nice. It's nice to cap it off early in the morning and be done, baby.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the OU stuff. And we didn't really address this on the last episode because I don't know. We didn't really feel like it was that necessary to acknowledge it, but so many people have brought it to our attention that we got to say something. So maybe the best way to say it is, if you're one of those people saying that OU only had 75,000 people at their spring game because there's nothing else to do in Oklahoma, you're an idiot. I don't know what else to say, because Ted, do people think it's just Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium and then like the rest of the state is just flat, barren wasteland around it? Is that what, like, I feel like that's the mental, maybe there's some horses sprinkled in there somewhere. There's maybe a covered wagon or two rolling across this barren wasteland. It's like, do they just think we have no other options for entertainment, or that we just don't have anything else that we could do around here?
Yes. The answer to that, quite simply, is yes. That's what people think. I I guess that's what people think, especially if you live on the coast somewhere and feel like nowhere else in the country is worth your time. And it's funny, you know, you can pretty much do the exact same things here that you can anywhere else, except for obviously the beach. All right, we don't have the beach, but what we do have is tons of awesome lakes that people go to like crazy. Everything else, yeah, you can go hiking, you can go fishing, you can go camping, you can go to amusement park, you can go to the movies, you can go shopping, you can go hang out at some of the great parks in the area. I don't know. I can go on forever. Those people are total morons, and there's no reason to even continue the conversation with them. What they don't, I don't think they understand the hilarious self-own that it is whenever you try to convince yourself that, oh, well, yeah, we had our spring game, but there's so many other things to do here. Instead of that, that's why no one was there. Yeah, that's why no one wants to go to that school, because there's no history, there's no interaction with the fan base. There's like the abundance of people that have come together around Oklahoma football is awesome. That's not happening out there. So quit trying to justify it by saying there's nothing else to do. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can leave my house and be at the stadium in approximately 30 minutes. And there's a lot of stuff to do where I live. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of stuff to do where you live, and you live much closer to the stadium than I do. Like, I think this is just people trying to make themselves feel better about their program, right? Yeah. And you look at it, it's like, oh, you only had that because, there's nothing else to do. It's like, they know that's not true. They're just making excuses to make themselves feel better. And that's fine. I'm fine with people continuing. Now, I get mad when people talk down on Oklahoma, like as a state. I won't lie, I do. It upsets me. But there's also part of me that's like, I'll let them keep thinking that. Man, we know everything there is to do in this state within an hour of Norman. We know how nice it is to live here, like the quality of life you get living here. We know how nice people are here and respectful, and how people around here don't think that they're better than everyone else. So I also get the sense that people think that OU fans can only live in Oklahoma. Like that every fan that came to the spring game like lives in Oklahoma City or Tulsa or Edmond. That, there happen to be some people that live in Dallas and came to the spring game. They left their big fancy city to come to the spring game and support the program because football matters here.
I talked to people that came from New Jersey to go to the spring game. I talked to people that came from Nebraska. I talked to people that came from Iowa. I talked to people that came from Arkansas. I talked to people that came from Texas, and I talked to people that came from New Mexico. That was within about 10 minutes during a pregame show at Balfour on Campus Corner. So, yeah, there's people coming from all over the place. But just for a fun little exercise, let's just concede the point, and let's say, you're right. There's nothing to do in Oklahoma. Thank God we have a spring game, because we have nothing else to do with our time.
What else would we do on a Saturday without the spring game?
Let's concede that point. The only thing there is to do in Oklahoma is football. That's it. There's nothing else to do. Would you rather go play at a place where what you do can't get anyone's attention because there's so much to do? Or would you rather go to a place where everyone is focused on everything you do, and the support, because there's nothing else to do, is overwhelming? I think I'd rather go to the place where the support is overwhelming because there's not shit else for anyone to do but hang around and watch and talk about and celebrate football. That's what I'd pick.
Once again, I think some of the people that think they're dunking on Oklahoma as a whole don't realize that they're telling on themselves.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. It's the most hilarious cell phone I think I've ever seen in my life.
It's just like, oh, we've got so much to do. No. It's okay. You can just admit you don't care the way that we care. Especially now, like the fan base is fired up. And I know the Baker Mayfield thing that brought a lot of people to it, but you're right, man, because if you're a recruit now, things have changed, certainly, right? With NIL and how that is affecting where players are going. But players want to go play at places where people are crazy about football. The NIL stuff factors into that, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at what football means here. There's going to be a lot of guys that are going to want to be a part of that. And that's why, this notion that, when OU goes to the SEC, like the wheels are just going to fall off, like recruits aren't going to come to Oklahoma. It's like, no. That's only going to ramp up the investment and how people care around here. Is it going to be harder? Absolutely. But I don't think people understand how kids think. And I know that kids have changed, right? And I know I'm getting old, but they want to go play somewhere where football means something. Yep. They do. Like, they want to play in front of a full stadium. They don't want to play in front of, 35,000 people in a stadium or 50,000. They want this thing to be packed. And when you come play at Oklahoma, it's how it is every Saturday. And everyone knows who you are. That can be good sometimes. That can be, it can be a little annoying sometimes, right? But you're a big deal if you come play at Oklahoma. And I know some guys, oh, well, I get to kind of blend in Los Angeles or, wherever, Houston, wherever. But from what I can tell,
say that no one wants to blend in. Right?
Yeah, no one.
You may want to blend in after you've been a superstar somewhere and are kind of tired of that life. But when you're coming out of high school and you've got the stars in your eyes, no one wants to blend in.
Yeah, you want to feel like a big deal. It's only natural for these young kids. Like it's just how humanity works. Like you want to feel appreciated and like you're a big deal and feel that love from the fan base. And for people to think that them saying, oh, there's nothing else to do in Oklahoma, but for those fans to go support their team, it's like, yeah. It's not that there's nothing else to do. It's that, where is it on your priority list? Right. And you compare it and there's great fan bases out there. It's like, if you've ever been to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, right, it's not some booming metropolis either. And they love football. I mean, You can say that College Station, like you can say that about a lot of places. But it all comes down to where is the college team you support on your priority list? And here, it's really, really high on the priority list. And listen, going to the beach may be higher on someone else's priority list than college football. And that's their choice. But Ted, we don't have a beach, so that's not a problem here.
Not a problem. And the last real point that I have on it, stop acting like it's a spring game thing. Okay? It's not a spring game thing. Was it the punter that transferred to Ohio State that said, and I think Ohio State had would they have 55,000 or something like that for their spring game? He said, that's the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of ever. That was bigger than any crowd we ever had at USC. and it was a spring game. So he was talking about how impressive that is. So don't try and slide this in on us and act like, oh, this is just a spring game thing. No. That's not how it is. We saw the empty stadium when Lincoln had his his introduction. We saw that no one has gathered for any of that stuff. We know. Listen, I get it. I understand. It's not a big deal. You got movie stars and musicians and all kind of famous people out there. You got beaches. You've got, I get it. Football's not that big of a deal. It's okay. Don't try and fake it to us like football's a big deal. You're just kind of, everyone's just waiting for something real. No, that's not the case. We'll see. We'll see whenever you open up the season. It's going to be an empty stadium all year.
I just think that some people think that they're owning us when they're like, look at how much football means to these people. No,
What a bunch of losers.
That's us. That's us. That's our thing.
Here's the other thing. Like, Lakers not in the playoffs. Clippers not in the playoffs. The Kings didn't have anything going on. So there's no excuse. There's no excuse.
It was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Listen, man, there were severe thunderstorms in the forecast for OU spring game, and still that many people showed up. So I don't want to hear the weather excuse.
Yeah, it was the same. The weather, it was the same as it is 350 other days of the year in LA. Okay. Sunny, clear, 75 degrees. It's the same thing year round.
Do we just have to accept that, for the foreseeable future, that everything that happens with OU and with USC football are going to be compared? Because I feel like, and it just feels like we're going to have to compare every single thing. And do we have to pretend that we really care about what's going on with Southern Cal? Now, you and I have established cheering for the defense there. We got some of our best friends on that defensive staff, hoping they're great defensively. And I'm to the point where it's like, okay, I'm kind of over it, but I know the fan base is going to continue to do this. So do we just have to accept that this is going to be a comparison for, I don't even know how many years this thing is going to drag on, but it doesn't feel like it's ending anytime soon, dude.
Well, I think it'll be at least the first year it's going to happen. And then I think it'll start to fade and everyone will kind of do their separate thing. But, one of the reasons that it's going to continue to happen is because the national media, specifically ESPN, is going to throw USC in our faces nonstop. There's no doubt that ESPN, with Lincoln Riley going to USC, has grabbed a hold of that, and they're going to do everything in their power to elevate it. Why? Because ratings in college football have been on the decline, specifically in the playoff, right? And they know that if you can tie in the West Coast and get that population back engaged with college football, that's going to help the ratings a ton. So you're going to see them elevate USC nonstop. It's going to be relentless. If they're ever even close, you guarantee it right now that if anyone's in a battle with USC to make it into the playoff, like if there's 2 1-loss teams and USC is one of them, buddy, you can forget it. It's going to be USC. They're trying to get those ratings with all of those people that live out west because they've been non-existent. You go back to the very first playoff that had the best ratings. I think last year's did like 50% of what year one did. Year one had a West Coast team in Oregon.
Yeah, I will say this. USC's going to get good. Like, they are.
I agree.
Like, Lincoln's going to recruit at a high level. He's got a lot of guys on that staff that are good recruiters and really good coaches. I mean, they're going to get talent. There's no doubt in my mind, but it all comes down to what happens when and if they get to a college football playoff, right? Because that's the thing. Like, if people want to compare, and maybe people are just Colin Cowherd, if people want to compare what's going on with USC and Oklahoma, really, I expect both of those schools, OU for the next couple of years until they leave the USC. I expect both of those schools to control their conferences and to get to the college football playoff at some point. And that's when we can compare them, when they're playing Bama or Georgia or Ohio State, like those that, or maybe each other. That would be, oh my gosh, could you imagine?
It'd be awesome.
But
I will say, though, I think USC's got themselves an Oregon problem.
They got a big Oregon problem. Phil Knight is on a mission, man, on an absolute mission.
And the mindset and kind of the attitude that's going to Oregon is very similar to what we've seen come here to Oklahoma, right? It's kind of the same type of deal, and they are negative recruiting Lincoln Riley and USC like crazy, and that's gonna continue, and that's gonna be a really tough football team. And in the near term, Utah is gonna be really good too.
Yeah, I would say the new mentality at Oregon is kind of whatever it takes.
Yeah. Yep.
Phil Knight's got that checkbook open. He's like, whatever it takes. I'm getting old. But yeah, there's just so much. This has dragged on into the middle of this week where people still saying, hey, you only had that kind of crowd because there's nothing else to do. So we had to talk about it. Other OU news, transfer portal, you got to be in by May 1st. Now, to be completely honest, with how useless the NCAA is right now, if someone went in after May 1st, I'm not so sure they wouldn't get a waiver to be immediately eligible for next season. I'm not entirely sure how that process would work, but with the current role of the NCAA, I feel like that could happen. But OU's only had one guy enter the portal so far, to my knowledge, and that's Cody Jackson. So, and this was reporting, I think, by On3, who brought this to everyone's attention. And this is a guy, man, he's got size, he's got talent. Just for whatever reason, it just hasn't come together for him in Norman. And I'm not sure the staff is overly surprised by this. I haven't been able to talk to anyone about it, but this is a team that has been, we talked about it going into the spring game. They need to find some depth at wide receiver, that 5th, 6th, 7th wide receiver that they trust to put on the field. And Cody Jackson seemed like he was in the running to be one of those guys, but I don't know. I guess he decided that, maybe this isn't the place for him. And it's not going to be, with the way that BV and this staff are running things, with the accountability that they're creating, like this place isn't going to be for everyone. So it'll be interesting to see if more guys hop in the portal. But, with that deadline looming, being only a couple of days away, to only have one guy in the portal, I think that says a lot about how these players are feeling about the direction of the program.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know if that number is going to grow. We expected there to be, something happen after spring ball was over, and we've only had one so far. Maybe there's going to be a couple more, and that doesn't always mean that they're unhappy with the new style. It could just be not going to get an opportunity to get on the field. I can kind of see that now. I could probably have a better chance somewhere else of getting out there and being a starter. That stuff's going to happen. So I think you continue to hear that there's been a high level of buy-in. They got to continue to improve it, but the buy-in has been really good. And the wide receiver position, I'm with you on finding that fifth guy, but gosh, if there was a position group really on the entire team that I would say, like, if you said you're going to have a transfer portal guy, point to the position group that you would want it to come from, I would probably say receiver. I feel like we've got a good amount of talent there, some young guys that are going to continue to develop, some experience. We got a variety of body sizes and skill levels and specialties. So I think it's going to be something that we're going to be able to absorb pretty well.
Yeah, and I'll add this. Cale Gundy, remember, he's coaching all the receivers now. They used to break it up, him and Dennis Simmons. Those are two guys that have two very different styles of coaching. Yeah. It's probably the best way that I could put. I mean, playing for Cale, just he's been around so long, and he was on the staff when you were a player. He was on the staff when I was a player. He'll get after you, man. I mean, he will absolutely get after you to try to get the best out of you. So I don't know if that had anything to do with Cody Jackson's decision. Probably didn't, because I think everyone respects the hell out of Cale Gundy and the way he goes about his business. But just something to note, right? That could be quite the change in style for some of those guys.
Yeah. I would also venture to guess that kind of with the new approach around OU football, that Cale has probably gone back to his roots even more. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. He's a no excuses type of guy, right? So, yeah, that's interesting. So as far as the transfer portal, Venables addressed the backup quarterback situation after the spring game, and here's the quote: "We're still developing. We don't have quote unquote answers right now. The portal is a definite option for us. If we go that route, you find somebody that's the right fit, the right age. There's a lot that goes into that. Not to get into all those weeds, but that is a definite concern for us, no question about it." That's something that we had mentioned on here, Ted, and a lot of people noticed that Jeff Lebby is now following Emory Jones on Twitter. Remember, he's at Florida, played a lot for him last year, was in the battle with Anthony Richardson there at Florida for playing time at the quarterback position, jumped in the portal, jumped out, stayed through the spring. But yeah, a lot of people are going to be tracking Brent Venables and Jeff Lebby's follow list on Twitter over these next couple days.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I've seen some really good things from Micah Bowens. He's athletic, he's quick, he moves around, he throws a good ball. We saw that with that long touchdown to Gibson. I don't know. There's probably been a mindset with him that I'm not breaking through. And I think whenever you it hits you that you're not breaking through, you ease off on the accelerator a little bit as far as improving and buying in and really putting yourself forward and trying to get the absolute most out of yourself. Seems like maybe he's fallen into that a little bit because he seems incredibly talented to me. So, but it's something that we've talked about from the very beginning, that they're going to need some better depth at quarterback, at least until you get Evers up to speed.
Yeah, from what I understand, Bowens, he's got talent, right? Like you mentioned, he's got the athleticism, but it's the consistency, right? And if you're not consistent at any position, the coaches aren't going to trust you, and they're not going to put you on the field, but certainly at the quarterback position. So he's got flashes, though. You're right, man. I mean, there's some times where you look at like, wait, could that guy start? And then
Yeah.
there's others who are like, okay, I get it. And since he's been there, he's never been seriously in the mix of getting on the field. So clearly there's something, right? I mean, clearly. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens now. Just because they're looking at the portal doesn't mean that they're going to add somebody. Like BV said, if they don't find the right guy, the right fit, then they're going to have to ride with this group of backup QBs that they've got. So I'll say this. If you're a backup quarterback, whether you're Micah Bowens, Ralph Rucker, Nick Evers, like, you got to see this and be like, I got to step my game up, right? I know that some people may say they'll see it, they'll get super offended. I would hope that as competitors, these guys see it and they're like, okay, all right, Coach V, I see what you're saying. Like, I got to get better. Hopefully they use it as a motivational tactic as opposed to something that they're offended by and upset with.
Right.
That's my hope, at least.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be really difficult to remain on roster and not be really bought in and frankly excited to show up every single day. You know, it's not going to be easy to just hang around and be a part of the team. Life is going to become increasingly more difficult, especially as things continue to progress and the team gets better and better and the talent gets better and better. It's going to be way harder if you're not, because I expect there to be some dramatic improvement just on roster guys, like not even talking about recruiting, just development through the strength and conditioning program, through just like positional development. If you're not developing, you're going to stick out like a thumb. If you're not getting better, if you're not getting bigger, faster, stronger, you're going to really start to stick out. So just by that nature, you're going to, I think, find guys more and more bought in.
Yeah, if you're not bringing the juice every day, it's gonna be awfully hard to play in a program led by Brent Venables and then led by Jerry Schmidt on the strength and conditioning side. That is, OU's not the place for you if you don't want to bring the juice every single day. That, I think that's very safe to say. Okay, big week for some former Sooners, right? So let's make some predictions for some OU guys in the NFL draft. And you look at the guys that have a chance of being drafted: Perrion Winfrey, Brian Asamoah, Nik Bonitto, Isaiah Thomas, Kennedy Brooks, Mike Woods, DTY, Jeremiah Hall, Marquis Hayes, Tyrese Robinson, and then don't forget Gabe Burkich. So let's play a little game. Who are you expecting to be the first OU guy off the board?
This is hard because everything tells me that it's going to be Perrion Winfrey. You know, he plays a premium position. He obviously played really well in the Senior Bowl. He backed that up with some good numbers at the Combine, and all of that stuff has been really good. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, right? Whenever it comes to evaluation for a draft, the deep dive on film, frankly, is not going to be great. Now, he is going to have some things where, and we've talked about this before, whenever you do something really well, like you have a great Senior Bowl performance and you have good Combine numbers, that's going to skew or bias the way that people look at your film. They're going to look at your film and say, well, let's get to the reason behind the lack of production, and maybe we'll be able to pull that out of him. And some of the scheme stuff is going to help him in that regard.
Right.
But there's also going to be some other stuff on there that they're not going to like. They're going to see him get blown off the ball. They're going to see him getting pancaked. Right? They're going to see, some lack of effort on some plays. And I'm just
they're going to watch the Tulane game.
yeah. So I'm concerned that some of that is going to creep in and be a big negative for him. But I don't know. I'm going to say Perrion's the first guy off the board, but I'm really close to saying Asamoah.
And I think, okay, how about this? So I think that we both agree that if you're looking at a guy, an OU guy that could go higher than a lot of people think, I think the answer is Brian Asamoah.
Yeah.
Now, some people may look at Nik Bonitto and say, wait, how would you think that Asamoah goes before Bonitto? Because Bonitto, he plays one of the two premier positions when it comes to drafting defensive players. They draft pass rushers and corners high. And those are the two premier positions on the defensive side of the ball in the National Football League. But the thing about Bonitto is, unless you have a really clear vision of how you're going to use him, he wasn't like a dominant edge player. And remember, it was the Big 12. When you look at the Big 12 offensive linemen that are going to be drafted that he played against, the tackles, they just aren't there, like, especially being drafted high, like in the first 3 rounds. And he didn't have the Senior Bowl or the NFLPA Bowl or the Shrine Game or any, like, he ran well at the combine, but at what point is, like, the film is what it is, right? So when you look at Asamoah, one thing that I think teams are going to love, the dude just played hard all the time. All the time. Yeah, does he have some issues, maybe diagnosing some things, getting lost in the trash a little bit? Yeah, but he played his ass off, and he can absolutely fly. So even though inside backer isn't typically a position that goes really, really high, I could see someone going, I know what I'm getting with Asamoah. I know where he fits in my defense. I can teach him to recognize some things better. I can help him analyze the game. The raw materials are there, and the effort is there. That's where I think Asamoah may go a lot higher than people think.
Yep. He the way he moves, he's really efficient. He's explosive. Effort. All right, whenever you turn on the film to watch Nik Bonitto, what you're often going to see is Brian Asamoah flying past him to get to the football when Bonitto's jogging. That is a big no-no whenever it comes to how you look on film. Like, there's no quicker way to get passed over on draft day than lack of effort, the note on some of your play. So I think that's one of the big things that you're going to see there. And, I believe that Asamoah is one of those guys that is, frankly, more suited for the NFL than he is college. And I think that he could find a home, quite a bit higher than what most people are going to be expecting.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Now, who is, and I hate to bring this up, but it's just the reality of the draft. Who's the guy that is going to go way lower than a lot of people think? I'm hesitant to say Nik Bonitto just because it's a deep draft at the edge position. If guys go early, then like that could push them up boards. You know what I mean? So I do think some people are going to be very intrigued by the get off and just being able to mold him into kind of a, an outside linebacker type player. but Kennedy Brooks, I think, is a guy that OU fans are going to be sitting there going, why has no one picked? Like, he was incredibly productive. He was such a good player. And that's all true. But one thing you got to remember is the NFL draft isn't necessarily about production. It's about potential and elite athletic traits. And that's really not Kennedy Brooks. So I think there's going to be some OU fans sitting there going, why has he not been taken yet? I could see Brooks being that guy, unfortunately.
Yeah. And, unfortunately, he plays a position where less guys get drafted high now than they used to. You have to be a super, super special player to be drafted high. And it's really kind of hard to separate yourself from everyone. If you look at Kennedy Brooks, like, we know that the dude is just, you handing the ball, he finds yards. We know that. And I don't think that that's going to be different at the next level. I think wherever he goes, he's eventually they're going to be like, kind of like we were. Wow. He's not going to blow you away, but when you hand the guy the football, he gets good, positive yardage. I think that's going to happen. I think he's going to get an opportunity for it, but it's going to be really hard for an NFL team to, I think, be wowed enough to take him at a high spot. It's just so hard to separate from the crowd. So I agree with you there. If I was to pick one that goes lower than people may think, because there was initially some really high, prospects for him, it's got to be Nik Bonitto. It really does. He does have an elite get off. That can get you a lot of places, but in the NFL, you better have more than an elite get off, because that's kind of like your baseline. You got to have a great get off to even get going. And then you better have a really good skill set. You better have some explosiveness. You better have long arms. You better have, a high effort whenever you're out on the field. You better have a great attitude whenever you're out on the field. We'll see.
Yeah, I do think that. I think Isaiah Thomas is a guy that may go a little higher than people think, just because he maybe doesn't have the elite traits, but the effort, production, just he's a guy I think a lot of people would want to have on their team. So we'll see, but it'll be interesting.
Got good size too. I know he's listed at. Did he weigh 265 or so at the combine?
Yeah.
I think he's a guy that's probably, if he can get on a spot and hang around for a couple of years, he's going to be a 285-pound defensive end that's 6'5". That's got some good long arms. I think he's got some good size to him.
No, I'm with you. All right, let's get to call your shot. We asked you guys to give us your predictions for the OU guys in the NFL draft. This one comes from Coach Janway on Twitter, who says Winfrey, Bonitto, Asamoah in the 2nd, Thomas Hayes, Turner Yell in the 4th, Robinson in the 5th, Brooks, Burkich, Hall in the 6th, and Woods, an undrafted free agent. He says Stokes, but I'll just say it. Laurent Stokes is not an NFL player.
Yeah.
Just not going to happen for him. But I will Hayes is also an interesting one. From the people that I've talked to in NFL front offices, like, the variance on him is interesting. Some people love him, like think he could be a late day 2 guy, and some people think he could be, kind of a mid to late day 3 guy. Like, that's a wide range for an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So it'll be really interesting to see where Marquis goes. Turner Yell, I'm beyond curious to see where he goes, because he's not the biggest guy in the world. That 40 time at the combine was good for him, but I feel like I have no idea, even the range where he's like, I'm thinking he's a mid to late day 3 guy, but I could also be like, he may be an undrafted guy. I got no clue.
Yeah. I think that, and I hate to say this because it obviously matters for those guys. You want to be drafted high. There's no doubt about it. It means more money. Obviously, the higher you get drafted. But, I think the most important thing is to make a team, right? Whether you're drafted or undrafted, the most important thing is to get an opportunity and make the 53-man roster or a practice squad if you're a younger guy. And I think that it's going to be late for Turner Yell, but I don't think it matters. I think he's going to make a squad, either a 53 or a practice squad, just because I think he's a hell of a football player all the way around. Special teams, as you know, is going to be a big premium for the later round guys. And I think he's can be a really good special teams player. He's got that compact body. He's explosive. He's fast. He tackles really well. He can play multiple positions in the NFL. I wouldn't be so caught up for him on where he gets drafted position wise, like what pick he is. I think he's going to end up making a squad.
Yeah. And then this other one comes from Dusty Anderson, who says Winfrey 2nd, Nik 3rd, DTY 6th, Thomas, Brooks, and Hall undrafted free agent. I would be surprised if Isaiah Thomas doesn't get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Jeremiah Hall has become a fan favorite for OU fans. His big issue is just people don't use fullbacks, right? So he didn't test well at the combine, all things considered. Now, the guy's a football player. He's not a track star. But when you have a less than ideal athletic profile from the testing and just not a lot of teams in the league using your position, like it's the odds, they're just are only so many slots, right? So I don't know what's going to happen with Jeremiah Hall, but his ticket, I mean, it's going to be special teams. It's going to be special teams, but we'll see, man. I would love for him to get drafted because I think OU fans would love to celebrate that with him, but I don't know. I got no clue. He's a fullback, so that makes it difficult.
You don't see many fullbacks drafted, true fullbacks, and I don't know that he's a true fullback. It's hard to really classify exactly what his position is anymore. Like I wouldn't call him a thumper fullback, right?
No.
You know, he's I guess like a blocking H-back. So yeah, it's going to be tough, but special teams and wherever he goes, it's going to be like what happens in front of him. Like because you never know. Like all of a sudden you make a couple of plays in some preseason games. Maybe someone goes down in front of you and they start using you as that blocking H-back. And hey, this guy's got something out of the backfield. And whenever he's got the ball in his hands, you may end up making a roster that way. But it's going to be tough because, like you said, it's just not many people. Like those roster spots are incredibly valuable, man. You can't have a guy on there to just have a guy. That's why it's tough at that spot.
I also think you're like, okay, you could be a special teams guy, but special teams coordinators, I mean, they look at the times, you know, and they look at the GPS data, you know, from practice and all that. If you're a 4.9 guy, you're not on the field, typically. So we'll see. I'm wishing him the best because I can tell you from experience, going undrafted sucks. Do not recommend it.
Yeah.
All right, let's do birthday shout outs. Welcome to the world, Holland Peterson.
Happy 6th birthday to Baker Sanders.
Happy 7th birthday to Finley Cooper.
Happy 12th birthday to Andrew Lambrugo.
Nice. Happy 24th birthday and college graduation to Nick McCauley.
Happy 33rd birthday to Randall Medina.
Happy 38th birthday to Jennifer McIntyre.
Happy 40th birthday to Thomas Norman V.
Happy 46th birthday to Jason Burnett.
Happy 66th birthday to Richard Leonard.
Happy birthday to Evan Maldonado.
Happy birthday to Cannon Bird Austin. Love that name.
Happy birthday to Scott Boulware, a.k.a. at Funky Sooner.
Awesome.
All right, let's get to Dane Brugler. We're talking NFL draft. But first, the only place to stop when you're road tripping is Love's Travel Stops. Love's has over 600 locations in 41 states, offering 24-hour access to clean and safe places. Whatever your road trip needs are, Love's has it. Fuel, fresh food, all the snacks and drinks, including my favorite, yes, Java Amore. That coffee is fantastic. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones. They've expanded their mobile to go zone so you can grab any of that stuff there. Make sure you download the Love's Connect app for exclusive offers from today's most popular brands. The Love's Connect app also includes a route planner and store locator. When you see that red neon heart on the highway, stop in and say hi at Love's Travel Stops. For a full list of what Love's has to offer, visit loves.com.
Opolis Clothing is the exclusive home for all of our Oklahoma Breakdown merchandise. If you want to live your life in buttery, soft comfort, go to opolisclothing.com. That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off your entire order. And by the way, I saw a lot of Oklahoma Breakdown shirts out in the wild at the spring game. Good job, guys. You still get the 10% discount on all of the OU and OKC Thunder gear as well. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off. And
Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School is a place that has a long tradition of educational excellence. With a 12-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, no student is overlooked. Bishop McGinnis's college prep curriculum offers 22 AP courses. There are numerous clubs and organizations for students to join, and as a proud member of the OSSAA, there are 14 sports offered. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Financial aid is available. You didn't mess me up again. Too good. I'm too good. All right, speaking of too good, here's Dane Brugler from The Athletic. Let's talk some NFL draft. It is our pleasure to be joined by the NFL draft analyst for The Athletic. He is the author of The Beast. Dane Brugler is in the house. What's going on, man?
How we doing tonight, guys?
I'm good. We just had a hell of a weekend with OU spring game, but this interview is hinging on the sleeping patterns of your twins, correct?
That's right. And I've got a 6-, a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 5-year-old, and then the two twins that are restfully sleeping as we speak. So let's hope it stays that way.
Wow. Busy man. I know you've got a lot going on with the draft and all that stuff, but to throw all that in the mix, that's wild.
I got a very understanding wife. So, I mean, you guys know how that goes, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start with the OU guys then, just in case the twins wake up. And as I looked through your draft guide, which is still just mind-boggling, it seems like Perrion Winfrey is the OU guy you're probably the highest on. You got him ranked as your 4th defensive tackle. You got a 2nd-round grade on him. And my question for you is, how much did you have to kind of change your evaluation of him after the Senior Bowl stuff?
I mean, being in Mobile and watching the offensive linemen kind of quake in their boots a little, when they had to face off against Winfrey, that's going to make you go back and, all right, maybe I wasn't high enough on this guy, because nobody wanted to block Winfrey all week during the Senior Bowl. And, it's one of those things that context matters as part of the evaluation process and how a player is used. I mean, we see it obviously with one of the first picks in the draft. Travon Walker could go number one. Was not a high sack guy, does not have a high pressure rate as a pass rusher. But when you look at the traits and then you look at how he was used, the context, that matters. And when you look at how Perrion Winfrey was used basically as a nose guard in that front, wasn't a lot of slanting, wasn't really asked to be able to get those one-on-one opportunities where he could show off that power, show off that quickness, show off the 35.25-inch arms. For him to go to Mobile, the Senior Bowl, show out every day during practice, show out during the game. And then unfortunately got hurt at the combine, left hamstring. So he only did the 40, wasn't able to do anything else. And then he didn't do any drills at the pro day, but I think he had done enough at that point, especially because this is not a strong defensive tackle class, especially guys that can create disruption. Both Georgia guys probably go in the first round, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Travis Jones from UConn, more of that nose tackle. But Winfrey is one of the guys that can give you juice and give you that interior pass rush that you're really looking for. And so that only helps him a little bit more. He could very well go somewhere top 40. That's possible, just because of simple supply and demand. But yeah, I think it's pretty clear. He's the top Oklahoma guy for me so far this year.
How much is size a factor? I'm not sure what schemes out there. Everyone is what teams that run whatever schemes are the highest on him, but he's an undersized defensive tackle for the NFL. How big of a factor is that going to be against him?
Yeah, he's 6'4", but he's 290. And so I think that a lot of teams, not a lot of teams, but the teams that utilize more of like a 30 front, they're looking at him as 5 technique. But I think that it's versatility because he can give you that inside outside looks where he's not going to be plugged in as only a nose or only a 3 technique or, whatever. He's got some position flex, I think, because like you said, yeah, he is undersized, but with that length that he plays with and some of that power, I think that, he can get better as a run defender, a guy that you're going to trust. But what he brings you on passing downs, that's really why you're drafting Perrion Winfrey. And 6 sacks in 2 years at Oklahoma, not what you're looking for. But again, when you look at the context and how he was used and how many true pass rush opportunities did he have, that all plays a factor in this. So I think somewhere in the second round, Winfrey's going to come off the board. And a lot of it, most of it is, his ability and the traits, because we know what's the scouting slogan. It's traits over production. It doesn't matter what you've done. It matters what you're going to do. And when you have traits like Perrion Winfrey has, teams are interested. And so, I think he's, and like I said, because the defensive tackle class is just not stacking up with some of the other classes, some of the other positions in this class, there's a very good chance that he gets pushed up just even a little bit more for a team looking for that interior presence.
Looking at Nik Bonitto as an edge guy, you've got a 2nd to 3rd round grade on him and just a tremendous get off, right? Explosive off the line, but never really developed kind of that arsenal of pass rush moves you're looking at for a guy at that edge position. And, holding up at the point in the run game wasn't exactly his strength. So where does he fit? What type of scheme do you think he fits in?
Yeah, that's the big question. And I think that's, if you're going to draft Nik Bonitto, you have to have a plan for how exactly you're going to unleash him. It's kind of like a pitcher in baseball. You have your fastball, but then it's how you develop that secondary pitch, the breaking stuff, the change up, changing speeds, all those things that keep NFL blockers off balance. And so for Nik Bonitto, he has that. Line him up as the wide 9, let him, use that burst to capture the corner. And, you can do it against Big 12 tackles, but in the NFL, you have to keep those guys guessing. They'll study you and they'll know exactly what you're throwing at them. So that's going to be the big question with Bonitto. And this is such a deep edge rusher group that, I like it, Nik Bonitto, and he's not even in my top 10 edge rushers this year. just because it's a crazy deep group from top to bottom. We're going to see these guys fly off the board early, top 10, and then throughout the first round, second round, third round, and even into day 3. So, but Nik Bonitto is right there in that mix. I think that, you're looking at him as probably more of a sub guy, the sub package rusher, and then you work him in. I think you got to be a little creative with a guy like this, where maybe you stand him up and let him spy from over the A gap or something. I mean, you have to be a little bit creative, because he's just not your prototypical edge rusher, just gonna put him at defensive end on any down, and that's it. So I think that for a team that's willing to invest in his strengths and kind of work on where he needs to improve, it's going to end up paying dividends, because that pass rush that he brings is so lethal.
Brian Asamoah, linebacker, I think is a fascinating situation here going into the draft. He's one of those players that I feel like is going to be a better NFL player than he was a college player. He had a good showing at the Senior Bowl. He tested really well. He looked great at OU at Pro Day, going through some movement drills and linebacker drills. I've talked to his linebacker coach, and there's a lot of interest out there in this guy, and there's some interest in him possibly going way higher than some people think. What have you heard on Brian Asamoah?
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys that just grows on you. Like you run out of reasons why. Okay, why isn't this guy a second round pick, or why isn't this guy a top 75 guy? Like you start to run out of reasons. He's doesn't have ideal size. It's just 6'1.5", 225, but 33-inch arms. Okay, we can work with that. I think he's got that really impressive length for a guy that doesn't wow you coming off the bus. But and the other thing too is I've heard teams, well, why didn't you do the 3-cone? What's he hiding from? That kind of thing. But when you watch him on film, this guy all over the field, the range to the sideline. I think in my report I called him a second level ninja, just because the way he can avoid those climbing blocks and keep one eye on the blocker but the other eye on the ball and make a play. So there's a lot to like about Asamoah, because the tackling skills in coverage, I don't think that was necessarily something that you point to as a strength of his. But when he was asked to do it, I thought more often than not, like he looked like he knew what he was doing out there. It's just he needs to just mature his understanding of route concepts and squeezing those zones. He has the athleticism. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So he's that classic run and chase guy with that speed, that tackling appetite that he has. So this is an interesting linebacker class. We're going to see a couple guys possibly go round 1. 3 Georgia guys are going to go top 75. It's crazy. But Asamoah is right there in that mix. It would not surprise me at all if he came off the board round 2. But at worst, we're looking at probably a mid-third rounder.
Yeah, he can run, and people like linebackers that can run. Yeah. And he does when you turn on, like if you just look at the highlights, his highlight reel is, you're just like, damn. I mean, that guy's not a first rounder. And then when you watch the full game, you're like, oh, okay. Now I get where the criticism comes from. Okay. Moving to one of the offensive linemen, Marquis Hayes. You've got him as your 6th ranked guard. And Marquis is, for me, he was one of those guys, like his good moments were damn good.
Yeah.
But then the moments where his pads were too high, where he lost leverage, like you just look at it going, man. So is he a guy you think teams are looking at going, hey, we can get him to play at a higher level more consistently? Because he does have some of those moments with the physicality he plays with where he looks fantastic. But do you think NFL teams look at him and say, hey, we can eliminate some of those, some of the valleys and the peaks and valleys of his play?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I feel like I'm a little higher on Hayes than most out there, having him in my top 100 as a guy that's a potential day 2 pick. And I'm going to bet on some of those highlights that you mentioned. I mean, we're talking about a guy at 6'5", 320 pounds, really long arms. not an amazing athlete by any means. I wouldn't necessarily call him, explosive, but I do think he's efficient. I do think that, he understands angles. He understands how to unleash that power, with, your lower body and your upper body kind of, they got to work together to, help create, room in the run game. And so, he's a guy that I think that, like you said, when you watch the good moments, you get excited. Physical hands, heavy hands, can really create movement at the point of attack. Now, like you mentioned, though, pad level could be an issue at times. Just his fundamentals, just being consistent. I think that's something that will continue to get better and better as he, gets more experience. And look, he's a 3-year starter at Oklahoma, so it's not like this guy's new out there. So, he needs to get better with some of the, especially when blocker or when rushers threw their counters at him. He was a little late to adjust at times. So just understanding what's coming at him, because he was a heavily penalized player as well. And that's something that stood out on tape. But again, I'm going to bet on that wide body, that length, that power that he plays with. And the fact that I think he understands angles, he understands body position and what he needs to do. So if I need a guard, especially if I'm running a gap scheme and I'm looking for a guard somewhere in the first 125 picks, Hayes squarely on my radar.
How about Mike Woods at wide receiver? He's tough to project for me anyways. He's got great size. He's tested really well athletically. Had probably way more of a quiet year than he wanted to at Oklahoma after transferring from Arkansas. But my goodness, does he look good whenever he's running routes and going through some of the drills?
Yeah, it sure does. He's a good sized player, big target. He's got those long arms, can create that catch radius for the quarterback. I think, you did expect a little bit more. And something that, is important to me as I do my evaluations is, going through these guys and looking at their touchdown to drop ratios. You always want the touchdown number to be higher than the drop. And for Woods, his drops were higher than his touchdowns in his career, and then also this past year at Oklahoma, only 2 touchdowns compared to 3 drops. So, and is he an amazing athlete? No, but he's a solid athlete. I mean, I think he ran a 4.55 at the combine. Not, it's okay, but not exactly what you're looking for from a speed perspective. And he's I think he's a little straight line-ish with his routes. He's got those long strides, which really helps him eat up coverage. But at the same time, settling his feet, breaking off that route, just needs to be more deceptive. Needs to be a little more polished with what he's doing out there. So, DBs aren't able to read him and get that head start. So, I think that there's plenty to like about Woods, but it's tough when you stack him against all the other receivers in this draft. It's such a loaded position every single year. And so when you stack them against other receivers, I know I ended up with a priority free agent grade on Woods, but I haven't heard better than like a late round on him. And again, part of that is just stacking them up against these other receivers. There's so many of these guys that run better, or maybe have have something in their report, something in their game that's distinguishable from other receivers. I don't know that Woods necessarily has that one thing that you could really hang your hat on, like whether that's size or speed or, being a seasoned route runner. Like, I don't think there's that one thing that you can point to and say, well, he's got this, and we know that's going to translate. So to me, that's one thing kind of holding up the eval with Woods.
Yeah. Nothing that no like one attribute that just separates him from the pack. I
Right.
hear what you're saying on that. This guy, I mean, Isaiah Thomas, he's just a football player, man. They asked him to play all along the defensive line these last couple of years. You've got a 4th to 5th round grade on him. How do you balance like looking at a guy's traits and maybe not having ideal measurables or ideal speed, like that stuff, but then looking at production and just reliability and kind of what he's meant to OU's defense over these last couple of years?
Yeah, I'll be honest. He tested better than I thought he would.
Agreed.
You got 6'5", 265, and he's not a guy that relies on speed. He relies on those heavy hands where he's going to, create knockback at contact, or quickly shed, get around the blocker, use that long arm that kind of set up these different moves that he has, whether it's spin, whether it's a chop. But he has, he tested better than I thought. Ran a 4.7, a 4.70, decent vertical, decent jumps. But I think that he is a little tight through the hips. The fact that he did not do the 3-cone or short shuttle, that kind of, backs that up. It probably not doing it for a reason. So he is a little stiff through his midsection, through his hips. He's not the best bender necessarily. And then the other thing that bothered me with Thomas was that he left meat on the bone. There was some misproduction, especially in the backfield. It's great that you're getting to the backfield, but you got to finish. You want to, first and foremost, you want to disrupt the quarterback, make him move his feet. But a sack, that we're talking about a 7-yard loss, 8-yard loss, that changes the game. So you got to finish both versus a run and versus a pass. So I think, again, like we talked about with Woods in receiver position, edge rusher by far the strongest position this year. And Isaiah Thomas, you stack him up with all these guys in this draft, and it's hard. So I would not be surprised if Isaiah Thomas is, the 15th best edge rusher for one team and the 25th for another team. And they both like him, but it's just such a loaded position that that's how you kind of separate these guys based off of some of these little things. But no, I think Isaiah Thomas, you want to put him out there and, let him go make plays and use that power, that knockback at contact, use those long arms. I don't know that he's ever going to be, an 8 to 12 sack guy in the NFL, but I think he's going to be part of a rotation for a long time.
Well, we just had the spring game. We watched Baker Mayfield's Heisman statue get unveiled there. It was a fun atmosphere for that, but he still doesn't have a home.
Yeah.
What have you heard as far as maybe draft day moves, some type of trades with picks or something to get Baker Mayfield? I don't know I'm sure Cleveland's dying to trade him, but they've pretty much killed his trade value. But what are you hearing out there?
Yeah, it's funny how now the reports are out there that maybe they'll bring him back because Deshaun Watson could be suspended, so maybe you just bring him back, let him play the first 6 games or however many games Watson suspended. You can't do that. You guys can
That's
speak
hilarious.
to that. Yeah, you guys can speak to it more than I can. Being in locker rooms you guys have been in, it's just not going to work. You can't. This isn't Madden, where you can just carry a guy like that. It'll disrupt too much. That's basically Cleveland telling these reporters that, or hey, just put this out there. Maybe get teams a little antsy about because they're Seahawks, Panthers. They're sitting back saying, well, we don't have to push the issue, because we know you're not going to keep them. So, and we know that there's only so many teams that still need a quarterback. So, there's a chance you might end up cutting him, or the value gets so low that we could end up, just throwing a 5th round pick, and you're going to accept it because what else are you going to do? So I think that it'll be interesting on draft weekend if anything happens. I think, the 2 teams are Carolina and Seattle. Those are the 2 teams that make the most sense, that really make the only sense. And I think as we get closer, it becomes more and more clear. I shouldn't say clear, because nothing is clear about this draft. Nothing. It's crazy. Usually at this point, we have a good idea of what's going to happen. Even the top 10 this year, we don't. And so Carolina at 6, if they don't draft a quarterback, I would not be surprised at all if at some point, there's, it gets announced that they trade a future second, next year's second, to the Browns for, or maybe a conditional second that, it becomes a 3rd if he only plays X amount of games, or, whatever, to the Browns. when you look at Carolina, they're in quarterback limbo, and I think the chance to bring in a guy like Baker, who, 1-year contract basically, see what you could do. I think that would make a ton of sense for him. Either Seattle or Carolina would be a good spot for him to kind of just try to do his best to show out. But if Carolina drafts a left tackle at 6, you trade a future pick for Baker. All of a sudden, that offense becomes a little more interesting to watch.
Yeah. There'd be a lot of people here in the state of Oklahoma watching it. I
Sure.
know that.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey. It's DJ Moore. Still got, you add that left tackle. The offense, it becomes much better than we saw last year. That's for sure.
Yeah, I got a bunch of other kind of big picture NFL draft questions for you, but I got one more question about this crop of draft eligible OU guys. Looking at OU's backfield, right? Like the two staples in that backfield were Kennedy Brooks and Jeremiah Hall. Yeah. And just guys that, they just don't have the measurables, right? That some of the elite guys at their position. And then you look at Jeremiah Hall, there's, only a handful of teams in the league using a fullback position. How do you think things will go for them, day 3 of the NFL draft? Are those two guys you think have a chance to have their name called, or do you see more of the undrafted free agent route for them?
Oh, no, I think both have a chance. But just like you said, it just depends on the situation. And, because Hall, especially, because a team needs to, have to fill a need at that position, being that hybrid fullback, tight end, H-back, do everything type of guy. You have to have a need there. And then also have to have a draftable grade on Hall. And that's, those two things have to match up, and not every team's going to have that. So I think with Hall, it'll be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if he went 6th or 7th round. He has that ability. He's certainly worth it. But for him to actually get drafted, it's another story. And with Kennedy Brooks, this guy was, OU has obviously had these really impressive running backs. Just they find ways to be productive. And Brooks, the 3 years that he was on the field, every single year, he had over 1,000 yards each of the 3 years that he was out there.
If he would have came back this next year, he probably would be OU's all-time leading rusher. Crazy as that is.
Yeah. He would have been, probably just shy of 5,000 career yards. He's got that type of ability at any moment. So I think he's shown that he can do it. I want to see. I don't think we saw enough about with him. Like in passing situations, as a receiver, as a blocker. I think that's something that's really missing from his game. And he's just not an explosive guy. At least that's not how he runs. It's not how he plays. Kind of a short stepper. That's his run style. But I do think he has a really good feel for his block development, a good feel for where those holes are developing. And he makes these little subtle moves that really help him avoid tackles. So Kennedy Brooks is intriguing, and this is day 3 running backs. We're going to see these guys, come off the board like crazy. We'll see a few. Breece Hall is going to be in the second. Kenneth Walker will be in the second. Maybe 1 or 2 more get in the 3rd round. But then on day 3, we're going to see 12 to 20 running backs come off the board. And it would not be surprising at all if one of these guys is able to become a starter next year, just because of, happenstance, injury, whatever, like a James Robinson, or, we've seen it happen time and time again. Kennedy Brooks is in that mix, where if he goes to the right spot, he has a chance to get on the field. You just never know.
You said earlier that it's a weird year, that there's not a lot of certainty as to what's going to happen there at the top. And I've heard a lot of people say that it's just kind of a light draft class anyways. There's a couple of guys there, but you're kind of short on people that you feel like would be franchise type of guys. Have you seen it kind of the same way?
Oh yeah, definitely. Aiden Hutchinson is the favorite to go number 1. And if he was in last year's draft, he probably doesn't go top 10, and that's nothing against Aiden. Aiden's a terrific player, but it's just, we're missing the Kyle Pittses, we're missing the Jamar Chases, the corners that went top 10 last year with J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, and then of course the quarterbacks. Yeah, that's a big part of this. Usually the quarterbacks are the tent poles, where when you map out that first round, last year we knew quarterbacks were going 1, 2, 3. even if you don't know exactly which quarterback, like last year, there was, Mac Jones or Trey Lance, we didn't know exactly which quarterback was going 3, but you still know quarterbacks are going there. You knew Justin Fields was going somewhere top 12. You knew Mac Jones was going somewhere top 20. So, we had those tent poles where we could work around that as we forecast how that first round, and not just me, but teams. Mock drafts get a lot of, for lack of a better word, they get mocked. But NFL teams do them, because they if I'm picking at 15, an NFL team is doing a mock draft for the first 14 picks because they want to understand who's, what are the chances this player will be there, or what's our board looking like at that point. And talking to teams that are picking in the teens or even in the early 20s, they said this is the hardest they've ever had it in terms of trying to forecast how those picks are going to play out, because we don't know anything about the quarterbacks in terms of how high they're going to go. I mean, each one kind of says the same thing, like, hey, they're going to go, but no one can tell me where. It doesn't seem like 6 of Carolina is going to happen. Do we see Seattle at 9? Maybe, that'd be a surprise, but it's possible. Does Pittsburgh trade up, from 20 to go get their guy, whoever that is? Maybe. But point is, we don't have those tent poles, and so and then we don't have the quote unquote blue chippers, the elite guys that are just no doubt about it, top 5 players. But we still have a lot of good players in this draft. I mean, I'm a big Travon Walker fan. I love Ike Ekwonu, a couple corners that are really talented. So there's still talent in this draft, and honestly, it's going to make for a really fun draft day. Last year we had more talent, but it was kind of predictable. This year, first round is going to be crazy, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, it may be the same guy, but who do you think is the best player in this draft? And then who is your favorite player in this draft?
I think the best player, I have Aiden Hutchinson as number 1 on my board personally. I just think he's a guy that checks a lot of boxes for what you're looking for in terms of the production, what he did in on the field, based on, you can point to on the tape, hey, he did this, he did, I've watched it with my own eyes. The testing, the athleticism that he brings, he had the same 3-cone as Von Miller. Like this is a really good athlete we're talking about with Aiden Hutchinson. And then talking to his coaches, talking to scouts about him, it's just from a preparation standpoint, from a makeup standpoint, they call him the lost Watt brother, just in terms of how he's wired. This is a guy that is all football all the time. I mean, he just, this is all he cares about. And so I think that when you put it all together, that's why for me, Hutchinson's the top guy. My favorite guy is probably who I have ranked 2 on my board, and that's Ike Ekwonu from NC State. No joke. In the fall, Sunday mornings, the family, we go to church, come home, and I fire up my computer and I check my system to see what tape has been uploaded from the day before. And the first team I would check every single Sunday was NC State, because I wanted to see what souls did Ike Ekwonu snatch the day before. I mean, he is that type of player. He's fun. It's controlled violence, it's explosiveness, can play guard or tackle, and the strides that he made in pass protection this past year really sold me. He dominant run blocker, but his improvements in pass protection were, I thought, really impressive.
Yeah, they'll get him to stop oversetting. That's an easy fix.
Yeah. I think, and he showed enough progression in that area that I think that, and he's a really, really sharp guy. I mean, you talk to him, and there's a couple guys like that in this draft, more than a couple, that you talk to them and you just walk away feeling like, okay, even if it's not in football, this guy's gonna win at life. Ike Ekwonu, definitely one of those guys.
You mentioned that this draft, it doesn't have the tent poles at quarterback, but those guys are going to go somewhere. And as you've evaluated them, who are kind of your favorite guys in this QB class? Because it seems like everyone is saying the same stuff, like that. Just a lot of people aren't very high on any of these guys.
I mean, do I have to pick a favorite? Because I don't know that I have one. Like it's hard to really look at any of these quarterbacks. And here's my thing: if you're going to draft a quarterback in the first round, I believe you better have conviction that quarterback is going to be a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, just top half, 32 teams, one of the top 16 quarterbacks in the NFL at some point during their rookie contract, even if it's not until year 3, 4, 5. But you have to have conviction they'll get there, or else what's the point? Why are we drafting him in the first round, spending a first round asset on a guy that we're just not sure is going to get there? So I don't know. It's hard to really have that conviction with this group. Now, if I need to win a game tomorrow, I feel really comfortable bringing Kenny Pickett in, and I think he can help me win a football game. Now, does he have the ceiling that's going to help me win the Super Bowl? That's an entirely different thing, and that's tough, But if you don't believe that Kenny Pickett can lead you to the Super Bowl, what are we doing? Why are we going to draft him? That's great that he can help us maybe win the division, maybe get us to the playoffs, but you got to get us there. And so I think that's the hang up with Pickett. Malik Willis, the traits are so much fun. I mean, the athleticism, the arm, but it's still a big gap in terms of what he was asked to do at the college level and what he was asked to do, what he will be asked to do in the NFL. And I don't think he's deficient in those areas. He's just very, very unproven. And so the passing vision, the field vision, his ability to progress and read the coverage. Pre and post snap. It's something that it's the film, you throw it on there and you can see these little examples of him doing it, but more often than not, it's what he wasn't asked to do it on a consistent basis. So it's Desmond Ritter's kind of a mix of both, where you could see him coming in, having success as a starter, moderate success, pushing, helping you stay in games, win football games. But, is he a guy that you have a ceiling that can take you all the way? I don't know. It's just hard to I think that maybe the best way to put it is, I think quarterbacks in this class are pretty easy to like, but really hard to love. And, but these guys are going to go. And so it's going to be really interesting to see where that run starts, who's the first quarterback off the board, and then how many end up going first round. Is it 2? Is it 3? It maybe more. Do we see a team, trade back into the late first to get a Matt Corral, get that 5th-year option? It's at least possible. But it's going to be fascinating to see it play out.
Last question. We'll let you get out of here. I can't believe the Twins have stayed asleep. Champs. It's a
absolute champs. Yes.
Championship level performance by them. 2 players that, their draft stock and the coverage of them, it's been so interesting to me over the last couple of seasons. Kayvon Thibodeau and Derek Stingley.
Yeah.
With all of the ups and downs and all the think pieces that have been written on these guys, ultimately they're both still going top 10, right?
Very good chance, yeah. With Stingley, it's, if you flip that 2019 season and the 2021 season, we're talking about him as the number 1 pick. That 2019 season was so amazing. 21 passes defended, 6 interceptions. But he was a big part of that championship team for LSU. But the last 2 years, basically lost years for him. Especially this past year where he missed most of the year with a foot injury. And so, you start to, wonder, okay, is he, first off, the medicals, doctors have to give you, the trainers give you 2 thumbs up and say, yeah, he's clear, fully healthy. But then, is he going to be able to fight through pain? Is he going to be someone we have to worry about, being nicked up constantly throughout his career? Or is this just kind of a one-time thing? And, he's going to go back to being the stud we saw in 2019. And then with Thibodeau, I don't think it's ever been about him falling as it has been about finding the best fit for him. He's just not going to be a fit for everybody. And that it really comes down to, the personality, and, he cares about his brand, and that's okay. You look around the NFL, it's not full of humble superstars. There's a lot of superstars that have, side hustles and care about, Tom Brady cares about, hey, obviously Tom's a little more accomplished than a player that hasn't been drafted yet, but it's something that teams do, that's the conversations they're having when it comes to Thibodeau is, it's not a question of like whether he loves football or not, because I there's no question he loves football, but at a certain point, will something eclipse football and on the priority list as kind of being the main focus for him. And so I don't think that he goes. I mean, he could go 2. That's not impossible. He's not going 1. I don't think he goes 3. I think he could go 2 to the Lions, 7 to the Giants. There are a few spots in the top 10 where I think it will make sense, and he'll just be too good to pass up at that point. So, and same thing with Stingley. At the very least, he's going top 12. So yeah, both these guys, we're going to hear their names pretty early next Thursday night.
Dane, I know you're extremely busy right now, man. We really appreciate the time. The most comprehensive coverage of the NFL draft. Go check all of his stuff out at The Athletic. You're the man.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. It was fun.
It'll be, man, I feel like there's not the same buzz around the draft that there normally is, but Brugler, he kind of got me excited for it.
Yeah. I think whenever it's weird. Sometimes there's a lot of buzz whenever you know who like kind of the top couple of guys are, and maybe it's more about does it really unfold that way. But whenever there's among most of the draft experts a lot of uncertainty, maybe there's not a lot to grab a hold of there, but I still think it's going to be really cool.
No, I'm with you. And you know we will keep on our eye on where all those OU guys go. Hopefully they all get drafted. Hopefully all of them go. But you really never know. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. But first,
it's time to get back out on the golf course, people, and there's nothing better to drink on the course than the #1 seltzer in golf, Clubby Seltzers. Clubby Seltzers is an Oklahoma company that is already winning national awards because their product is delicious. Tastes exactly like a club special, but it's a seltzer. They're not just for the golf course either. They're perfect to drink by the pool, after mowing the lawn, whatever. If you haven't tried Clubby Seltzers yet, go grab some. You won't regret it. Clubby's first variety pack is coming out in May. To find a place near you that has Clubbies, visit clubbyseltzers.com.
And attention, business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Yeah, you do. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Insurica's clients become best-in-class businesses by working with Insurica's team of advisors to manage risk. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Best-in-class businesses win by avoiding loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at Insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. And go eat at Ted's Tacos and Cantina, people. It's an awesome bar with fantastic food. And they just dropped their latest birria creation, the Wet Dia. This massive quesadilla is loaded with slow-cooked beef birria, cheese, onions, cilantro, and spicy molcajete sauce, and comes with a side of beef consomme for dipping. I've had it. It's really good. You need it in your life. If you love delicious food, delicious drinks, and fantastic service, head to Ted's Tacos and Cantina. They have locations in Uptown OKC, Ada, and Ardmore. Visit Ted'sTacoCantina.com for more information. As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
I think stuff like this is stupid. And I think one of the things that it seems to have kind of gone by the wayside is like the commitment videos of recruits. I feel like I haven't seen many of those anymore. There used to be like every recruit had a big video to put out, but the Rams draft video was really, really cool. I thought that was awesome. Kind of made it look like it was Ocean's 11 or something like that. You saw a bunch of the Rams players in it and some actors making some cameos. when I first started, I was like, oh, this is going to be so stupid. But it turned out I actually enjoyed it. And admittedly, it is something that I usually hate. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the walls are coming down for me or something, Gabe. I don't know what's happening with me.
Okay, so if you haven't seen the video, highly recommend going and checking it out. It's funny because I don't think the Rams have a pick till like the third round.
Yeah,
So it's
I
like
know.
we're gonna steal the draft. Are you? Are you really? But okay, what was your you've got some, like you said, I wonder what the budget for the video was because it is like a straight up Hollywood production. You've got Dennis Quaid as Stan Kroenke. Tyrese is in there just randomly. It seems to be kind of like leading the heist of sorts. Josh Holloway as Les Snead. You've got, was it Scott Eastwood, who I was randomly next to at a club in LA one time. They had the table next to us.
Nice.
Great guy, by the way. He was Sean McVay. I thought Van Jefferson's performance in there was on. Who was the guy? I can't remember who it was, but he's like, millions of people are coming to Las Vegas, and the other guys are like, yeah, for the draft, and he's like Celine Dion. That was my favorite part.
That was one of the players, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, it had to
Yeah.
have been.
I liked Aaron Donald. They had him as the nerd, kind of the nerdy guy. I don't know. It was really well done, and kind of really well done for a team with no picks. But they referenced that in the video, which is kind of funny. Like everyone's talking about they ruined their future with no picks and they're stealing the draft. I don't know. I thought it was really cool. I actually got a chuckle out of it, and I don't know, kind of a Ocean's 11 meets like Fast and Furious type of trailer. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed, and that's what you can do when you win the Super Bowl. You can make stuff like that, and people can't say anything. They can't just like, what are we gonna say? They just won it all. It's like they don't have many picks, but I guess this is what the front office has been doing in the meantime, since they don't have to prepare for the first round of the draft.
Yeah, we're not scouting anyone, so let's go make a movie trailer. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, go check it out if you haven't seen it. Yeah, the steal the draft video. If you Google that, you'll find it. All right, who do you have as your loser of the week?
I thought about going with allergy sufferers out there.
I don't know if you've heard my voice, like, and I've even had some people like on the YouTube comments be like, "Dude, are you all right?" It's been like, I'm struggling, man. I'm over here popping lozenges like it's my job.
You almost died with that cough that one day. I think since then it's been hanging around. People are worried, but allergy sufferers. I saw Damon Lane tweeted this out. This has been the windiest April in 50 years since 1970. I thought I was going crazy. I thought maybe I was just getting old and noticing the wind and complaining about things more. But no, it turns out, yes, the windiest April since 1970. So thought about going with that. But
that can we use that for an excuse of why our golf games are currently at where they're at?
Sure. That's what
okay,
I always
perfect.
do. I've always done that.
Yeah.
I've always done that. But I ended up going with, this is an amazing story. Kansas Wesleyan baseball. Okay. They're playing a game against Bethany College. And someone goes to the Gatorade to get some water, notices there's something strange about the water coming out of the Gatorade jug. Turns out they find a substance in the Gatorade jug. What's the substance? They believe it's paint thinner. Okay. So there's a current police investigation going on. Kansas Wesleyan believes that Bethany College put something, poison paint thinner, in the Gatorade jug. How about that?
I I saw this. So that part is, I mean, it's hard to comprehend that another school would do that. Now, I will
Unless it's
say
a
this.
mistake. Like
It's a mistake, right?
Okay.
You would
It's gotta be.
assume. Now they're doing an investigation like that has not concluded. But you would assume the school uses some of those big Gatorade jugs for paint or something like that, which that seems like a bad idea. You can
Very
mix
bad
those up.
idea.
But did you see what happened to the game in the game?
No.
Kansas Wesleyan, I guess they were mad about that whole thing because they beat Bethany College 33-2.
Woo. No mercy rule, I guess. Jeez.
I suppose not.
Yeah, I understand maybe throwing some X-Lax in there, or what was it, the muscle relaxers? Remember that old commercial where they put the muscle relaxers in the Gatorade jug?
Yeah.
Football team. But yeah, something that's going to kill the other team. Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't seem very smart. It's got to be a mistake. Like someone had to have, I don't know, maybe not.
I'm with you. Like, out of all the funny things you could put in the Gatorade cooler, like paint thinner, that's not funny. That's not a good prank.
No.
That's just dangerous. Now, the laxative thing, if, it's the second inning and Kansas Wesleyan's entire team poops their pants, yeah, that's funny. That would have been hilarious. Now, you still would have gotten sued and there would have been an investigation. People would have been pissed. But if you're going to do something to mess with the other team's water cooler, you can't take it that far. And like you said,
gotcha. You're all dead.
Oh, you're all in the emergency room, losers. No, I'm with it. It had to have been a mistake. But I bet you that Bethany College will no longer use Gatorade coolers as their paint buckets also. I would assume that change will be made.
Oh, that was wild. I saw that and I was like, that's crazy. And you would assume that you would have to think that your first thought would be, oh my gosh, there was a mistake made. There was something in here and they filled it up with water unknowingly. But there must be something going on to where that's not your first thought. Your first thought is to call the cops, right? Wow. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. I think we're all interested to see how that whole thing plays out. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all, whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone. Everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. First Fidelity Bank provides free ATMs worldwide, making banking convenient wherever you are. They also give back to the community. FFB donates a total of more than $500,000 to local charities and educational foundations. Make your life easier and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information.
And if you are a whiskey or bourbon drinker, stop what you're doing, head to your favorite liquor store and buy some Balcones products. You got to grab some of Balcones Lineage Single Malt Whiskey. It was just voted one of the top 20 whiskeys in the world by Whiskey Advocate, and you'll be shocked by how affordable it is. Also, you got to snag some of Balcones Baby Blue Corn Whiskey.
It's made from blue corn. That's the fancy corn.
And that is why it has won more than 25 awards. Last but certainly not least, you got to buy some of Balcones Pot Still Bourbon. Its big flavors make it the perfect bourbon to drink year-round. Remember, in 2012, Balcones Single Malt won the Best in Glass competition, beating brands like Johnnie Walker and Macallan, and became the first American distillery to win that competition. This stuff is the real deal, people. Go drink it. If you love great whiskey and bourbon at a great price, then Balcones products are the only way to go. The whiskey may be made in Texas, but yes, the owners are from Oklahoma. To find a liquor store that has it, visit balconesdistilling.com. All right. For my winner of the week, thought about going with the PGA Championship at Southern Hills.
Are you
Go-
going?
I think we're gonna hit up the weekend because I think my in-laws have like a sponsorship tent or something like that. So I think we're gonna try to go. But Phil Mickelson might be there too, registered to play in it. And now I guess it's not a guarantee that he's going to play in it just because he registered. But I feel like Lefty has fallen off the face of the earth, and he may resurrect. He may rise from the ashes at Southern Hills in Tulsa. Ted, could be kind of fun.
Yeah, the best thing to do is to get out there, play some golf, and try and move on. That's about it. That's the longer you stay away, the longer everyone's going to talk. So get out there, play some golf, wear the terrible shades, and it may even be good if he goes back to the front button-up long sleeve mizzen and main shirts that
Oh, I
everyone
forgot
kept
about
talking
that.
about. Give
What-
people something else to talk about.
What a phase that was. So, yeah, hopefully we see Lefty there at Southern Hills. I also thought about going with Miami Heat, eliminated Trae Young and the Hawks, did it without Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry, and now they just get to sit there and rest and chill, waiting for the winner of the 76ers and Raptors. That's
Playoffs have been crazy so far, man.
yeah, but Miami's there just kind of chilling now. So that's a good spot to be in if you're the Heat. Now, I also thought about going with Texas fans, man, because I can't lie. Quinn Ewers looked pretty good in that spring game. And they've got juice at the skill positions. I don't know if they're going to be able to block anyone with that offensive line, especially those two offensive tackles. They got to upgrade at tackle, but their skill positions, Worthy, Nair, the transfer, Whittington, if he's healthy, Bijan, Sanders, the tight end, looks like he could end up being a dude. I know it's Texas, but that offense, I think their defense may still stink like they did last year, but that offense is going to have, if they can block people, it's going to have some pop now.
They're going to be good. They're going to be good. Yeah, I'm interested to see Quinn Ewers and
Hudson Card looked good too.
Yeah, Hudson Card. It's going to be interesting to see if Quinn Ewers is the guy. If Hudson Card maybe would hit the transfer portal. Be a nice backup quarterback at OU.
Wouldn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't he? But my winner of the week, Ja Morant, man, first of all, won the NBA's Most Improved Player Award, and then took that award and took it to Desmond Bane, his teammate's house, and left it there for him. Because Desmond Bane, he made a massive leap this year, and I thought that was cool. Just, hey, you probably deserve this more than me. Here's your trophy. Just left it on his kitchen counter. That's hilarious, and it's awesome. I think it says a lot about Ja Morant. But the dunk he had on Malik Beasley, oh my goodness. Just get out of the way, man. What are you doing? I mean, Ja Morant cocked that thing as far back as humanly possible, Ted. My goodness. And how about Iron Eagle on that call? What do you call it? A jawbreaker? Oh, that was awesome. The dunk and the call, everything about it was fantastic. That's one of the best in-game dunks we've ever seen.
That dude can fly. He does some of the craziest things that I've ever seen. Some of his blocks that he's had, like in fast break situations, and some of his dunks are just insane. And I'm glad they didn't call it there, but that could have been a charge outside the circle. But I've always said this, and I wish the NBA would adopt it. If a guy is standing outside the circle and you leave your feet and dunk it, and you're able to complete the dunk, it should not ever be called a charge, ever, under any circumstances. If you can fly that far and that high, you have a right to the rim, in my opinion, and that one was just insane. I watched the replay of it on Twitter probably 75 times.
Yeah, we can call. I like that. The right to the rim rule.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you can leave your feet and get there, the defender really is inconsequential in my opinion.
Yeah, and the thing about it is like now the pictures of the dunk are also like so sick. I know that are posters still a thing for kids?
I don't know. How about instead of you got posterized, you got screensavered.
Screensaver, you got gift, you got NFT'd.
Yes.
Like that was whatever kids are doing these days, that's gonna be a popular one. But the thing about it is like, man, Memphis, they were down like 11 with 7 minutes to go and came back to win the game. And John Morant didn't play particularly well in the majority of that game, but in the fourth quarter, he was awesome. And the end of that game, like the play that Minnesota drew up to get Anthony Edwards that three to tie the game with 3 seconds to go, that was awesome execution from the Timberwolves and a big shot by Edwards. But what was Anthony Edwards doing going over the top and trying to what he gave John Morant a free run to the basket. Now, a good challenge at the rim on Morant, and he just floated in the air like a superhuman and laid it in left-handed. But I have no clue what Anthony Edwards was doing defensively there. That was a big mistake.
Yeah, it's been that series has been a lot of fun.
The most fun by far. Now, Pelicans and Suns has been really fun as well, but that one has been wildly entertaining.
Yeah, and I didn't see this last one, but are they still keeping Adams out of the rotation mainly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we all love Steven Adams, but I don't even remember seeing him on the court, honestly.
Yeah. Yep.
But John Morant, 18 points in that fourth quarter when it didn't look like he had it. Like it just didn't look like he had it. And that atmosphere in Memphis looked awesome. I'm so jealous.
I know.
That should be us.
Morant is that I would pay a lot of money to watch that guy play. He's just a highlight reel waiting to happen.
I was thinking about that last night. Like who in sports right now, like not just in basketball, like who in sports would you rather watch in person than John Morant? It's like you think like Mahomes, Kyler Murray, like that type, but it's just the entertainment value that guy brings to watching him play. Like, I don't know who else I'd rather watch. I mean, there's better players in the NBA, but I don't know how many guys are more entertaining. I don't think it's like Steph Curry's fun as hell to watch, but give me Ja Morant over that. Like,
yeah, no,
I mean, it's just the level of athleticism, like the attitude, like everything about it is so fun to watch.
Yeah, no, he is. I think it feels like it's kind of weird that, I mean, even like Durant and like the last group that's really dominated for, the last decade and even more whenever you count LeBron, those guys are starting to age out, and there's a new crop of guys coming up. And I feel like Morant's going to be like one of those main dudes. It's going to be superstar worthy just because I think there's better players, but sometimes it's not always about how good you are. It's how loud do you do what you do. And he is loud.
Yeah. You talk about young guys in the league right now in the NBA. I think John Morant's got that. Anthony Edwards, the guy from the Timberwolves, like he is he's just a stupid athlete. He's going to be one of those guys. And then I'm not sure how many people kept tabs on the Houston Rockets after the All-Star break, but Jalen Green, that guy, I mean, his level of athleticism, he's going to be a dude now. So
if they get people around him, where do you put SGA in that group?
His game's different. Like, are we talking about like as, effectiveness, or are we talking about entertainment value?
Well, just kind of like the next group of guys that like he may not be as entertaining, but like the guys that are going to be the new like max players that teams are going to be built around.
Yeah, the hope is he's going to be, an an all NBA type player, right?
Yeah.
That's what you got to hope. So if he can continue to finish as well as he does at the rim, as creative as he is at the rim, and if he can make a big improvement shooting the three, he can be one of those guys. Now he operates a little differently. Like he's athletic as hell. I don't want to make it sound like he's not, but he's not. I mean, he's not John Moran or Anthony Edwards.
No, he's not. Leave from in between the bottom of the circle and the free throw line, cock it back to your ankle and punch it on a dude that's 2 feet outside of the circle trying to take a charge. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, the hope would be for him and Josh Giddey to kind of elevate each other's game and to be able to play off each other and create, one of the best backcourts in the NBA, right? Yeah. And that's the hope. But SGA is a great player. I mean, there's no doubt. But is he? Because I feel like if you're a max contract guy, you need to be in the conversation for all NBA, right? And there's only 3 all NBA teams. There's 15 guys.
Mm-hmm.
So can he get there? Hopefully. But he's got to show a lot more than he has to be in that conversation. I mean, if we're just being realistic about it, got to make an all-star team first.
Well, and you got to rarely, and I don't know the history on all the all NBA, but it's hard to make it whenever you don't have a team that's in the running. Like
For
you
sure.
need to be in. You don't have to win it, but you need to be in the conversation.
I hope it's just not awful next season. We're going down a Thunder rabbit hole. I got to pull us out. For my loser of the week. Thought about going with the Philadelphia 76ers. I mentioned earlier that the Heat are just chilling now at home, waiting. 76ers were up 3-0 against the Raptors. Embiid suffers the thumb injury. They lose game 4. Then they lose game 5 at home. And Embiid doesn't look great. Hearing him talk after the game, like he clearly isn't feeling great. It's affecting how his mental approach to the game as well. Game 6 Thursday night in Toronto. I expect the 76ers to get rolled in that game. And then it's going to be game 7. It's just not ideal. It's not ideal.
You ever had a thumb injury?
I've hurt I've hurt both thumbs, and it is the worst. Like it's awful.
Horrible. I don't have like any ligaments left in this thumb.
Oh.
And like
my right if you're watching on YouTube, ugh.
And whenever I should have had surgery on it, really on both of them, but it was so bad, like all the ligaments were torn out of it. Like one time I reached to grab the steering wheel to drive, and I hit the tip of my thumb on the steering wheel, and my thumb came, like this whole section of it came up over the knuckle and back here. It was the most excruciating pain I've ever been through, and I was driving down the road.
God, dude.
Gross, man. And it hurts when you brush your teeth. It hurts when you're trying to put your shoes on. It hurts whenever you're trying to eat food. You don't realize how much you use your thumbs until you've injured them.
Oh.
I feel for them right now.
And they take like thumb, fingers, they just take forever to heal because of the blood flow. Like I feel bad for Embiid.
When I was a rookie, the first day of training camp, we do stretch, and then we go. It's not even stretch yet. We're doing like a warm up, like an individual with linebackers, a warm up before we stretch. And the coach throws me a duck pass ball, and I like jammed one of my fingers to where I thought I broke it. It was how bad it was. First day of camp before it ever started, and it was brutal the whole camp.
Oh.
I mean, it was horrible.
That makes me so sad for you. All right, I also thought about going with Kevin Durant. Now, he did have 39 points in game 4 against the Celtics, but he also missed some key shots late, including a missed free throw that kind of really changed how they had to approach the end of that game. I couldn't believe he missed that free throw, but first time he's lost
one in their last game too, didn't he?
I know,
late.
Man.
Yeah.
But First time he's lost in the first round since 2010 with the Thunder. First time he's ever been swept in the playoffs in his career. And then Charles Barkley went after him. Got after him a little bit, and they're going to be calling KD a bus rider for a while now because of old Chuck. And, of course, Durant wakes up morning after getting swept, and what does he decide to do? He's like, I'm going after Barkley. Screw it. Post some pictures. It causes a back and forth now. Also, he on Twitter, and I kind of love that Durant's always on Twitter. It kind of makes him feel a little more normal, right? He's like one of the best basketball players ever, and he's just constantly online, like firing back at people. It's kind of fun. But now he's referring to himself as a god, lowercase g, on Twitter, and he's like saying it's like a positive affirmation thing. And I'm like, man, we could choose another word. Another word would be good, but I don't know. It just
Positive affirmation, delusion.
Yeah,
I mean,
it just feels like things like however he saw it going in Brooklyn, it hasn't gone that way. And now they're probably going to sign Kyrie Irving to an extension. He's going to continue to have his career, hitched to that guy. The Ben Simmons situation. I mean, I feel like we've said enough about that. That guy's he's got to figure some things out. But
no, it's heavily criticized at first, but now you look at Harden, it's like, hey, not actually a bad move. Harden, smart.
Yeah, Harden's out of shape. He can't go buy anyone anymore, and Philadelphia's still sitting there like, we got the better end of this deal. Yeah,
that's crazy. I love Barkley though, man. The man is a national treasure.
He's awesome. I mean, I stay up so late to watch Inside the NBA after those games. Like that is must-see TV for me.
Whenever Kenny was talking about he gave his rings to the people that were most important to him and helped him get him, and gave it to like his brother and the other one maybe to his dad, I think. And Chuck said, you should have gave it to Hakeem.
They were doing like, and Barkley, I was mad at Kenny Smith because Barkley was about to kind of talk about how, when you're the bus driver of the team, you're the leader of the team, you're like the go-to guy, like it's different. And it seemed like he was about to go into some stories and stuff and like an explanation. And Kenny Smith chimed in. It's like, you may not have a championship, but you're a champion. And Barkley looked at him like, what the hell are you talking about, man? He was like, I don't get to sit at the table with the other guys because I didn't win a championship. And I'm fine with that. Like, and I don't know, Kenny Smith, I feel like Kenny Smith derailed something great that we were about to get from Barkley in that moment. It pissed me off.
Yeah. I'm amazed at how I can see in 1 minute, I feel like Shaq may seriously get up and go over there and punch Charles. And then 5 minutes later, Charles is saying something, and Shaq's over like, yep, that's right.
He's right.
It's awesome.
Oh,
that show is great.
There's
no way
show.
they'll ever be able to replace it.
Oh, absolutely not. All right, but my loser of the week, Mark Emmert. So it's funny. So it was announced that he'll be stepping down as NCAA president. I guess once a replacement is found, or by June 30th, 2023. I'm not entirely sure why it'll take so long, but whatever. And normally when it's announced, when you've been doing something for over a decade and it's announced that you're stepping away from the job, normally people say nice things about you. Like, oh, thank you for your contribution to college athletics. Thanks for being a great guy. This, that, like, it's the exact opposite. The exact opposite. People are celebrating Mark Emmert leaving as president of the NCAA. And man, I don't think I've seen one nice thing, like complimentary thing written about the guy. That's got to hurt, man. Mark Emmert has to look at this stuff and be like, damn, was I really that bad? And the answer is yes. Yes, you were, Mark.
Yeah. Well, maybe to avoid all the negativity, he doesn't have internet in his mansion. That's the easy way to avoid all the negative criticism out there, because the dude has made a ton of money doing what? I'm not sure exactly.
Well, if you think about it, and I believe, a couple of years ago, he raked in 2.9 million as the NCAA president. Pretty sweet gig. I would probably let people just criticize me all day for 2.9 million a year. I think I'd do that. But other than completely now, and once again, he works for school presidents, right? CEOs, whatever you want to call them. So it's his job to take the heat for what those people want done. I know that. But in the press release, he said he, quote, emphasized the need to focus on the experience and priorities of student athletes. What? I mean, listen, we haven't forgotten what the women's NCAA tournament weight room looked like just a couple years ago. And then you've got the FBI investigation in college hoops where his infractions committee sanctioned some schools and still hasn't sanctioned others. But I think his biggest mistake was the complete mismanagement of the name, image, and likeness stuff, starting with the O'Bannon case. And if he just would have been able to convince the people he represents, those school presidents, that, hey man, things are changing. Like if he would have had some foresight, the NCAA, you look at what he did now, like them digging their heels in, it really has forced them to restructure, and it's made them essentially irrelevant in college athletics.
It's almost not even restructure. I'm going to start calling him Blockbuster Emmert, because whenever everything else was changing around him, absolutely refused. Like if they would have just given some common sense things, you can sign autographs, you can make some appearances, you can do some of these things to cash in on your name, image, and likeness. We probably could have avoided the let's pay a high school kid $8 million over 4 years to come play quarterback here. We probably could have avoided that stuff. But now, because they didn't do anything, they didn't even prepare for if they lost those cases of how we're going to implement some of these new things. It's just basically, well, we lost, throw our hands up, we've got the Wild West.
So other than losing the NCAA quite a bit of money that probably was avoidable, and other than getting owned by the Supreme Court and Congress, and other than the organization that he was leading having to completely change how it's structured, how it operates, and its purpose and importance, he's great. He's great. Other than that.
Well, here's the thing. I get, part of me understands where he's coming from. Like, we're trying to, like, this is supposed to be amateur athletics, right? So he's strictly trying to stick to, we've got to keep this amateur. This is an amateur model. But you can't, if you can't see that it's an amateur model, but there's people making billions of dollars off of it, you have to level the playing field somehow, and you have to change what you now view as amateur athletics. It's not like a tennis tournament like at the local municipal facility, okay? We're talking about big time, televised, highly watched sporting events that create billions of dollars of revenue. It's not what we once considered amateur athletics.
Yeah, and where it all went wrong for him is, and I know he was listening to the people that he works for, but it was his job to make them see what was coming. And he failed miserably at that. And now we're at wherever we're at, and the NCAA is is really honestly trying to figure out if it has a place in the future of college athletics, kind of is my read on it. So
Yeah.
kind of seems like we're headed toward the conference commissioners, and maybe the TV network's obviously heavily involved, but kind of seems like that's who's going to be running the show here pretty soon. So nice job, Emmert.
It's going to be college sports, but it's going to be run like pro sports.
Yep.
To some degree.
All right. On that note, episode 209 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Monday morning. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 3 to 6 on 94.7 The Ref. You can hear me from 3 to 5 on Sirius XM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Have a fantastic weekend. And until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.